Hey guys, welcome to the 2 a.m. pipe on the patio. Today, I am smoking my old Kaywoodie Saxon, one of my favorite pipes. I've had this one for quite a while. And I'm always drawn to this pipe for some reason. I just love smoking it. And in it, I'm smoking some Cornell and Deal Crooner, which is one of my go-to blends. I do love Crooner. It's a nice burley with some big chunky, see it in there, but it's got some big chunky chunks of burley and some deer tongue. And that deer tongue, man, I love deer tongue. But when you open this up, it smells like, to me, when I open it up, it smells like apple pie. There's no flavorings other than deer tongue that I know of. Some guys say there's like a whiskey flavor on it. When I look it up, it just says flavored with deer tongue. And deer tongue, if you look in here, the deer tongue is the little green leaves that you see in there. And it's like a vanilla. There's a kind of a vanilla flavoring. I adore this stuff. But I love those big chunky burly cube cut type stuff. Like I think it's PS41 or PS61, I forget which one it is. There's a burley cube cut, and man, I love smoking that stuff. You just pour it in your bowl. You don't tamp it down or nothing, and you just smoke it. And it's just a great smoke. And it's the same with this. This is pretty. This isn't as cubed as the PS41. Or 61, I can't remember which one it is. But you just kind of gravity feed this and light it, and it's just a smooth smoke. I love it. I think on Tobacco Reviews, it gets like a 2.8 or something on there. Guys either love it or they hate it because of the deer tongue. But I would give this a 3.5. I adore this stuff, man. I just really do. I think it's awesome. You know. It's kind of got that nutty, burly, woody flavor that you get from a good burley, but then it's got that vanilla kind of thing going on too with it from the deer tongue, and it's just a delight to smoke. Man, I love it. obviously I got a pound of it. So if you're trying to figure out how to buy the right sized jar for your tobaccos, if you've got 8 ounces of tobacco, you need a 16-ounce jar to fit it in. If you've got a pound of tobacco, you need a 32-ounce jar to fit it in. So basically twice the size jar of the amount of tobacco that you have, and it'll fit in the jar. So this is a 32-ounce jar to fit a pound of this tobacco in it. And if I had 2 ounces of tobacco, I would use the 4-ounce jars. It's been like that for everything I've ever had. So sometimes you have to kind of stuff it in there to get it all to fit. But that's how I do it, is twice as big a jar as the amount of tobacco I have. If it's a pound, 32 ounces jar. If it's 8 ounces, it's a 16-ounce jar. Just 4 ounces, you need an 8-ounce jar. So I tend to have a lot of 16-ounce and 32-ounce jars in my cellar. Because I usually buy either 8 ounces or a pound of stuff, and then I would jar it and put it down in there, and depending on what it is. Beautiful day. It's about 62 degrees. It was supposed to rain today and it didn't. I just checked the radar a little while ago and it didn't show any rain coming before 7, so but it does kind of look like it could get some rain here. We'll see. I'm just enjoying the heck out of this. So sitting out here and enjoying this, listening to the birds. It's supposed to rain. It was supposed to rain today, tomorrow, and Sunday. So we'll see what happens. 70% chance of rain Saturday and Sunday, so we may get nothing. Usually that means %70 of the area will get rain. And since we have a lot of mountainous area around us, they usually get the snow, they get the rain, and all the stuff that they say we're going to get, and we often don't. So we're near the border of North Carolina and West Virginia. So when we get the reports, the weather updates, it's for North Carolina, West Virginia, and the southeastern part of Virginia, southwestern part of Virginia. So it's a pretty big area that our weather reports cover. usually protected pretty well by the mountains, the Blue Ridge here behind us. Stuff stays on that side of the Blue Ridge. Every once in a while it'll come through, but boy, that is some tasty tobacco. But if you guys have Crooner in a jar, open it up and tell me if it doesn't smell like apple pie when you open it up. It doesn't taste like apple pie. Doesn't taste like apple pie at all. But man, that smell, especially when you first open it up after it's been sitting for a while. I really notice it when it's been sitting for a couple of months in the jar and I haven't smoked it in a while. And then I open it up and boy, that first opening of the jar is just apple pie. And it's a good smell. Apple pie is like the only pie I really like is apple pie. It could be regular apple pie or Dutch apple pie, but it's the only kind of pie I really like. I'm not a big sweets guy. I only like apple pie and cheesecake. That's about it. I've got a meat tooth, not a sweet tooth. Which is probably why I like Black Irish Twist so much, because it tastes like a nice steak. So my cousin back in California, she and I were talking, and I was asking her about my great-grandfather. And I was asking her if she'd ever run across a picture of him in his uniform from World War I. And she said she hadn't, and because I have his burial flag. I have his burial flag, my dad's burial flag, and my wife's dad's burial flag. And I wanted to find a picture of my great-grandfather in his uniform to put in the flag case. Got these nice flag cases where you can put their medals. And my father-in-law, we got to get a whole separate case for all his medals. He was in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And he was highly decorated. And the cases we have, his medals won't fit in it, so we have to get a whole separate box just to put his medals in. My dad was in World War II, and he got a Victory Medal, a European Theater Medal, and the American Theater Medal, plus a Good Conduct Medal, and so he didn't need a whole bunch of space for his medals. And my grandfather was in World War I, and all of those records were lost in the big fire in St. Louis in '74, I think it was, the early '70s. So I don't have any of his medals. I have no idea what medals he should have received, or when I wrote to get his medals, they told me that all those records were gone. They were lost forever. And that I couldn't get any replacement medals for him because all those records were gone. And his discharge papers from 1817 or 1918 rather, didn't say on them what medals he was due. Like my dad said what medals my dad was due. So when I wrote them, I was able to get my dad's copies of my dad's medals. And then my father-in-law we have all of his medals. But yeah, unfortunately, he was wearing his uniform when he was cremated. And they cremated him with all his medals on him. And my mother-in-law was just devastated. She thought they would take all his medals off of him and give them to her. So our congressman, he got involved, and he got him all of his medals that he was due. And we had some of his, the medals themselves, but we didn't have the ribbons. And but he got replacements of everything for him. And so we were very grateful for that. And but my poor mother-in-law, she was just devastated. And she wanted his uniform, she wanted his medals, she wanted to keep everything, and she didn't get any of it. They did get her a new uniform. They replaced everything, but it wasn't his, and wasn't his uniform that he wore. So she was kind of upset about that. And but anyway, I was talking to my cousin. Sorry, got off a little sidetrack there. And we were talking about family certificates and all that stuff. And back in the early 90s, when I was visiting my grandmother, I had made copies of all of the family history certificates of all the birth, baptism, marriage, death certificates that she had in her possession going back to the 1800s. And so I had all of copies of all of those. I don't have the originals, I just have copies of them. So my cousin was asking if I had seen any of those at my grandmother's house. And I said, yeah, there's a whole file folder full of them. I said, but I made copies of them. And she got so excited. I said, I've got them here. They're in a box out in the garage. I'll go out and I'll look for them. So that was yesterday. And this morning I went out. First box I opened, it had the kids' baby stuff in it. And I said, I'm sure it's in that. You know, it's got all the important family stuff in it. So, plastic tub. Opened it up right there on top. So I called her up, told her what I had. She was just thrilled. So I got to go make copies of all of that stuff and send it to her. So, because she's doing kind of the family history thing. And my uncle, who was 88 years old, has all that stuff. And it's in a shed on the side yard. He doesn't want her going through it. He doesn't want to go through it. He doesn't want her going through it. And so it's all just kind of sitting out there. And but I know he doesn't want to go through it. He's 88 years old. He's not going to want to go through it. And so luckily I had all these copies. So I was talking to her this morning and telling her what I had. She was just thrilled. And we had, like, my great-grandmother, she lost her first husband during World War I. And then she married my Grandpa Owens right after World War I ended. And Grandpa Owens is the grandpa that I know. I never knew obviously I never knew that grandpa. My real grandpa, great grandpa. I didn't know my real grandpa. He died very young too, and so we were going over all that stuff this morning together, and it was just kind of neat to she had questions about, mother's maiden names, and it was all on this stuff I had. So she was just thrilled with that stuff. So it's been a good day. And she's sending me some some stuff that I don't have. So we're doing a swap, information swap, and he said, you know, Uncle David will go, when he was going out there in the shed every once in a while, he'd go out there and he goes, the rats got into this, so I just threw all these pictures away. She goes, Uncle David, don't throw them away. We can, you know, they can do amazing things with stuff digitally. They can recreate these photos. And he goes, I ain't gonna bother with it. And we've got some amazing photos. She's got some amazing photos, like my great grandfather's name was Benjamin Franklin Revere. Supposedly we're related to Paul Revere somewhere along the line. We've never traced it back. That's supposedly he's my 6th uncle. But Benjamin Franklin Revere is my great grandfather. I'll put a picture of him right here. And I have a newspaper article of the house that my grandmother and my great-grandmother lived in Newark, New Jersey. It was an old brownstone built in 1881, and they used to live in that, and they would take boarders in. After my grandfather had passed away, they would take boarders in, and that's how she made ends meet. My grandmother was a cashier in a grocery store, and they would take boarders in, and that's how they made ends meet. And they had some great stories of that building, but it's a neat old building, which is no longer there. They tore it down, and they did a big story in the newspaper about it, talking about some of the families that had lived there, the upscale families that had lived in this house over the years. Not my family, but some of the family back in New Jersey, and when that was in the paper, they cut it out and sent it to my grandmother because she had lived in that house. So she shared that with me, so I made a copy of that. And she has a picture, or she has the envelope that my dad sent her when he was in World War II. And he drew on it, on the envelope, and it showed an eagle carrying a bomb in its claws over the ocean, and it said, "A letter from a sailor to his mom." And then up where the stamp would go, it just showed a bomb, like a torpedo, and he had written "free" above it. It's pretty cool envelope. She didn't save the letter. I'm sure she saved it somewhere, but she didn't give that to me. She just gave me the envelope. But I'm sure she has that. saved somewhere. We'll run across it someday, going through things. But I would love to have that letter, you know, to put in that envelope. And but I'm so thankful to have that letter. I need to put that in my dad's flag box. And I have a Zippo from my dad. Was on the Midway. He was on the inaugural crew of the Midway, which is now docked in San Diego, and I never did go on that. I need to get back there and go on that. So that was his ship, one of his ships, but he was a plank owner on that ship. And I have a Zippo from the Midway. I need to put in his flag case as well. An old one. Anyway, 31. Jeez. So anyway, it was a Kaywoodie Saxon with some Cornell and Deal Crooner today. Catch you guys later. Have a good one. God bless.